today, Eagles head coach Nick Sirianni had to defend quarterback Jalen Hurts in a pointed response to the notion that Hurts was, quote, along for the ride during Philly's Super Bowl run last season. Sirianni saying, quote, I think that's bull blank. And he went on to say he plays the most important position in all of sports. It's the most ultimate team game there is. What I admire about him is his selflessness of doing anything we need to do to win. Now, why is this brought up? Because obviously, hey, they became Saquon Barkley dependent. Saquon Barkley runs for 2,000 yards. The Eagles wind up winning the Super Bowl. So, maybe Jalen Hurts isn't great. Not that I always agree with Nick Sirianni, but wow, do I completely agree with him on this. Jalen Hurts, and we talked about it when we gave you our list of the 5 greatest quarterbacks in the NFL back in January. That, oh, by the way, ESPN's list today has those 5 guys. So again, we were 6 months ahead of the curve. Jalen Hurts is right outside of that list because Hurts has played a good part of his career with terrific weapons, right? You can't ignore whether it's A.J. Brown, reading or not reading, Barkley, tight ends he has had with Goddard. Like, he's had pretty good. He's also won and played well when he doesn't have good weapons, when he never had a running game, right? So it's not like but he has had pretty good guys around him for his career. But with what he has done, and especially last year, you look at the playoff run he had where his quarterback ratings, 111, 110, 119 in the Super Bowl. I mean, it was incredible, the run he had in the playoffs, right? This is a guy that last year, and you talk about the regular season for him, it's over 35 when you talk about the touchdowns, because the touchdowns running count, just like they count passing, you're talking about over 30 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Jalen Hurts is terrific. He doesn't get the due that other quarterbacks get. They win a Super Bowl, and here Jalen Hurts is, wow, but Barkley gets all the attention. And okay, rightfully so, right? Barkley had an incredible year, one of the best years we've ever seen from a running back. But when it got to the playoffs and Saquon Barkley wasn't quite the guy he was during the season, because, 350 carries will do that to a guy.
A little bit.
Who was your best player? Jalen Hurts, who goes and has one of the greatest Super Bowls of all time by a quarterback. When you're talking about his efficiency, his numbers, the game was over at halftime. Jalen Hurts is fantastic. He's just outside of that list of the top 5 quarterbacks in the game, because those guys, Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Mahomes, and Jaden Daniels, all do all 3 things that elite quarterbacks do. They win all by themselves, and they make everybody around them better, right? Those guys do that. Jalen Hurts, is there a tiny bit of a question for that? Yeah, but you're talking about splitting hairs between the top 5 quarterbacks game. Where's Jalen Hurts? He's right there at the beginning of that next level behind them, right? And to make the point about Hurts even further, his numbers weren't what they were last year. Okay, when a guy runs the ball 350 times, there's only so many offensive plays. It's not like, well, they ran the ball these 350 plays. What'd you do with all those passing plays? No, when you run the ball that much, there's a little bit less to throw the ball. And when you're running that successfully, guess what? You're going to keep running the football. And, oh, by the way, who also had a pretty good year running the football? Jalen Hurts, because that's what he does. I mean, I don't understand the whole, Jalen Hurts is not that guy. I don't get that whole narrative.
Well, it's where we always get into these difficult and weird conversations, regardless of sport, about supporting cast, team versus individual accomplishment and their role in, right? The whole Belichick, Brady, who gets more credit nonsense, go all the way through the 49ers all the way back in the day. How good was Montana versus Steve? Well, look at these guys that we're playing with. Look at these rosters. Go back to the Dallas Cowboys. Troy Aikman gets categorically dismissed on any list of all-time quarterbacks, despite his brilliance in that role, because he didn't put up 35 touchdowns. He wasn't winging it around like he was Dan Marino and such. So it gets dismissed. No, you play to winning football, and Jalen Hurts has done that. Right? Last year was his best year completion percentage. They finally figured out what the system, your favorite word, your old buddy Gil Bryant, do you have a system, is completed nearly 69% of his passes. 4 straight years he's rushed for double-digit touchdowns. The tush push, we talked about it with Lock and Four. It's an unstoppable play. Yes, you have a great offensive line. Guess who still has to orchestrate it? The quarterback, right? It's the old Brady fall into the right gap, or why some teams, like with Phillip Rivers. You never ran a quarterback sneak. Right? You couldn't.
Oh, yeah.
But you got a guy that's willing to put his body in that space and is very good and adept at getting whatever yardage he needs. And so for Jalen Hurts, it's, I think, the unfortunate byproduct of you throw for, in this case, under 3,000 yards. Your career best is 3,800 yards, like a Bears quarterback. 3,800 is that very few of them, but
a couple of guys.
Yeah. But just to that idea of, since he's not going to put up eye-popping throwing stats, that he's always going to get dismissed as if he's being pulled along.
Yeah, look, because we've come to that point where, okay, if you don't give me the numbers, we don't think you're as good as you are. And some quarterbacks, hey, this is about you, because don't forget his rushing, what he does rushing the football, that counts as well. So now suddenly his total offense, like I think it's more fair for a quarterback if you say, okay, let's compare your total offense numbers, because then at least
that's where we are now.
I kind of understand that Jalen Hurts was 32-5 last year, 32 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, right? 3,500 yards total when you talk about offense. It's time to compare total offense, right? Because you can't look, we don't tell quarterbacks like Aaron Rodgers or that don't run the ball as much but have had great careers, hey, I'm marking you down because you don't run the ball. But when guys run the ball, that doesn't really count as part. No. If you're not going to rip the guy for not running, yet you got to count the quarterbacks and the yardage they run for, because that's part of what makes them who they are as a quarterback.
Well, but it's you and I have been on air together long enough. I mean, we watched the rise and the end of Cam Newton. I don't think that guy ever got the proper appreciation for what he was as a quarterback. You know it's going to burn out at some point if you play that style of football, but doesn't take away and diminish any way, shape, or form the greatness. And for Jalen Hurts, he's got a right system, a right coach, a right set of teammates, and they all buy in. You don't need the individual gaudy numbers. Still gets his paycheck, and they get a lot of wins in the process. I think he's living right.
He's great. 6th best quarterback in the NFL, right below those 5 guys. He is that good.